Welcome back. Outside Minds podcast. Because you've already seen too much, bro.
They only added it so it could be like a ritual.
They're saying there's these, the end of times, right? There's all these signs.
Do you think we would know? Like, do you think the general public would know if Jesus came back?
Take a picture for $5.
You have a purpose in life, and if you don't fulfill it, you will come back until you fulfill it.
Welcome back to another episode of the Outside Minds podcast. I'm your host and creator, Stilo Free. This is the other host and creator,
.420.
And we got a great guest coming back on for the second time, Tyler Hall, tattoo artist, Reformed Orthodox Christian, ex-Freemason. We're going to send it on over to him so he can tell you a little bit about himself, his background, and where you guys can find him. Let's go.
Yeah, so second episode, I think that the first episode went very well. We had a great conversation then, got a decent background about the whole Freemason stuff. So if you want to know more about my past relationship with Freemasonry, then that's the route that you want to go and check that out. So without diving too much into that, the more recent decision and things of that nature, just continuing my Orthodox journey, still considered a Orthodox inquirer at the moment, just because, working through some things like family schedule and stuff like that is just making sure. But either way, I'm pacing myself with this Orthodox journey because I want to take it serious. And then tattooing, still doing the tattoo thing. That's my everyday job, except for days off, such as today and tomorrow.
Yeah.
But
Nice.
just same old stuff. But I think that this episode is going to get even more interesting.
Absolutely. As far as like the mysticism and like the Freemasonry stuff, I feel like you're the perfect person to ask about this kind of stuff, because when you align yourself with something, or when you study something, I notice you kind of really go hard and you deep dive into stuff like that. And I kind of see that, with your journey into Christianity and stuff like that. So I think you're a perfect person to ask about this kind of stuff. Before I wanted to ask you just something a little bit about that before though. Do you feel like, as a person where you are now, do you feel like the common man should just, I guess, are there any good aspects to Freemasonry that you can say, or do you think the practice should be just condemned altogether?
So that's where I think even the Freemasons that kind of, hate me now, and, y'all got to witness them do everything I said they were going to do in the comment section on the clips and stuff on TikTok from the first episode. But the main point that I want to make, and I've made this even in my lives and things of that nature, is that it's not the teachings of Freemasonry that's the problem, right? So the teachings of Freemasonry are foolproof. Like, there is things that can raise the eyebrow of the average Christian or the average non-Freemason.
Absolutely.
But it can invoke curiosity and things of this nature. But overall, the moral teachings that are inside of Freemasonry are good, in my opinion, and through my experiences. And that was expressed in when I used to cheerlead for Freemasonry. So it's not that Freemasonry itself is like teaching anything bad, and I think we even kind of went over that in the first episode. But what I think is actually cooked at this point is the culture of Freemasonry. I think that the men that are in it don't take it serious, and that's a problem. They don't take their faith serious. They don't take and that's what motivates me. That's what pushes me to be like, if I'm going to have this like platform or whatever, and even a part of me has felt like distancing myself from this whole internet thing. It feels like purgatory almost sometimes. However, there's still this inner drive inside of me that feels like, I don't know, responsible for how much I was cheerleading, but kind of showing both sides of the aisle of my circumstances and using my situation as an example, a perfect example of how the culture of Freemasonry, where they have a lot of them have essentially abandoned the obligations that they took. They've abandoned the moral teachings within Freemasonry, and the naivety. There's a lot of naivety that they think that this more mystical side of Freemasonry just simply doesn't exist. And it's like, if it wasn't for my deep dive into Freemasonry, I wouldn't have known about most of the mystical things that I knew about, including Kabbalah, including the Qliphotic, including, like, it doesn't really touch base on the Qliphotic, but it does touch base on Kabbalah, which then opens the door to the Qliphotic. So the naivety needs to go away. The naivety needs to go away, and they need to understand what they are a part of. And that's always been my argument.
Cool. Yeah, I just wanted to give you a chance to kind of state your position, you know what I mean? Just to, you know, for anyone who's listening and kind of doesn't know too much background about you, just kind of get your position on that and where you stand now, because that does kind of lead us into our conversation today, which is, you know, we've done the last 2 episodes about Epstein, and I just feel like it's very important to keep talking about this topic, because I feel like it hasn't gotten smoothed over because a lot of us conspiracy theorists and alternate media and people who are just want to get down to the truth aren't letting it get smoothed over. So I wanted to give you a chance to talk to us about, you know, your connection with Epstein, or what you know as the connection between the elites and Epstein, and, you know, the Sabbatean Frankism angle and all that kind of stuff. And I just wanted to get you a little chance to break it down for us.
Absolutely. So so you know, I know it was a misspoke, but no connection to that. But yeah, like it is at this moment a stretch to definitively say that, like, Freemasons and Epstein, or the Freemasons were working for Epstein. Like, I'm not one of those people. I am one of those people that does, you know, the extra mile research, or whatever the case may be, to support. Like, if I say something, right? Like, I'm not going to say something. I'll just kind of lay it out there, and then people will be like, oh, no, that's not true. That's not true. And these are obviously people. And again, this is the naive culture of Freemasonry. Whenever I make a claim and I just drop it out there, and then I provide my evidence to back my claim later or whatever, like, there's just this big problem of, like, denial. Like, you know, still, it's been 2 years since I've been expelled, and these guys are still passive aggressively making posts about me. I just made a post talking about it, but what they don't understand is how big of a network Epstein actually had, and that there are, regardless of the conspiracy theories, there's nuance to successful people in business that are more than likely going to pop up in this web or network that Epstein had. And that's the point that I'm making. And that's what I've been saying for well over a year now. And it's true. Like, there is people. So there's no directory inside of Freemasonry. There is, but not everyone has access to it. Like, that's Grand Lodge level information. It's like,
it's not like one big organized gang, you're saying.
Right. Like, it's like the itinerary, or not, the directory of membership is what the Grand Lodge has access to, and not everyone has access to that information. So no one knows who is actually, because a lot of Freemasons do want to keep their membership private. They're not putting their face on the internet. They're not trying to be influential figures or public speakers. They are perfectly fine keeping their Masonic ties private and their business endeavors private. And there's nothing wrong with that. And that doesn't automatically mean that they're tied to Epstein. But what I was saying over a year ago was, I was trying to explain to Masons that were giving me a hard time on the internet, was that, like, it's going to happen. Like, you need to understand that there are notable people inside of Freemasonry, and there's probably going to be people that get interlaced with this Epstein scandal.
Yep.
And that was the overall point that I was trying to make. Maybe I was a little crude when I did it, but that's because when it's one versus like well over a dozen of them in my chat, it's like, well, what else can I do?
Yeah, you're gonna get defensive for sure.
But yeah, like, I just made a post about this because there's, like, I won't say the podcast, but there are people that were at one point mutuals with me, and now they're making not only like a mockery out of my claims, they're also making a mockery of the entire Epstein thing. And it's like, if you are this organization that's supposed to be good men creating better men, and then you stand on the pillar of justice, like, that's one of the teachings inside of Freemasonry, is to stand on business when it comes to justice in particular, along with many other virtues, right? Like, that's the expectation of Masons, but you don't see any Masons that are showing any interest on bringing justice to this Epstein situation. Like, that's the point that I'm trying to make, that these guys are spending way too much time making memes like, ha ha, Gnostic Pope or Widows Miho was wrong, and he's just crazy, and there's no ties to Epstein, and blah, blah, blah. They're so focused on trying to prove me wrong, one person, rather than organizing and doing anything beneficial for, say, the victims of Epstein. Like, why are they not organizing together to do something to raise awareness on this, regardless of whether they're, cause that would look better to the public if they participated in like the conspiracy side, right? And like did something to contribute, because that's what Freemasonry is known for, is organizing, getting shit done, especially in times of tyranny and corruption. That's literally what it was invented for. When systems collapse, Freemasonry is one of its main core things, is that it's a system that can be duplicated and then rebuild society. In the case of a fallen thing, like, that's one of the good things about Freemasonry. But these Nimrods,
kind of like the Institution of America.
Right, exactly. Like, it's completely replicated and modeled off the way that Freemasonry governs itself, from the Grand Lodge level down to the local lodges. It's a complete parallel, but these Nimrods don't study Freemasonry enough to even know that fact. Like, that's a good positive thing about Freemasonry, but they're not even talking about that. They're too busy making memes and saying, haha, we're not in the Epstein files. Like, you are actually. And the main point here too is that they're celebrating over not being in the Epstein files. The word Freemasons and Freemason, when you add both of those up, is mentioned a total of 25 times. There's context clues. Jeffrey Epstein was sending in, having a conversation with, what's his name? Lawrence Krauss. I think it was it Lawrence Krauss? No, sorry. The guy that stepped down, Lord Mandela. Lord Mandela is like a British politician over in the UK. He's not a Freemason. However, his husband was reaching out to Epstein for funding to go to some esoteric, like, chiropractor school or something. But then, like, in the email chain, I can't remember the guy's name, like Rivera something. I don't know. Like, it's whatever. It's there. I've made videos on it. But out of nowhere, Epstein is sending, like, they're having this conversation about sending 10,000 pounds to fund his way to schooling. And then he's like giving information about, like, this prominent Freemason that he knew about.
Oh shit.
And it's like, why would you be sending that information to someone that's, you're offering to fund their education? Like, and why are you providing this randomly inside of this email thread with this person? And it's suspicious and it raises eyebrows. Does it say that, like, oh, that means the Freemasons were involved? No, what it does mean is that there's people, just like I said, there's no directory that people have access to. So there's people that are successful in business that no one will ever know whether or not they're actually a Freemason or not, that could easily be implicated within the Epstein network.
Absolutely.
That's just a fact. Like, we don't need to put all of our eggs in the trust basket just because it's an organization that we're a part of, because it's going to look way worse. 1% of the files has been made available to the public. This is just what everyone's found, with 1% made available to us.
And I feel like, anyone who's in the organization or calls themselves a Freemason, they're a man of their own will. So it's like, it's not like you can speak for everybody within the organization anyway. You know what I mean? So.
Exactly. And like, what's happening here is that it's God's way of rooting out corruption. This is very consistent inside of the Bible. When systems become corrupt and people notice it, and then, the whole point is to notice things, pray about it, the whole pray for your enemy thing, rather than being a vigilante and taking matters into your own hands. What Jesus teaches us is to notice the corruption, but then offer that up. Like, we have to, like, bear witness to it. And it doesn't matter if it's like full on fact. It doesn't matter if it's like full investigation, whatever. If it's something that's concerning and it's out of your control to fix, offer it up to God. So God has a way of just cleaning out all systems, especially of corruption. That's what God is consistently doing all throughout the Old and New Testament.
Yeah, and I like to use the word revelation, because he's just, revealing things, kind of in a divine way. They're kind of just happening on their own. People are just shooting themselves in the foot, like things are just unraveling in a natural way, just like you're talking about,
Yeah, and it doesn't matter how noble the cause of the organization might be. It doesn't matter how noble the teachings are, because it can easily fall into corruption. There's no organization that's made by man that is exempt from corruption.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Yeah, let's talk about the Sabbatean Frankism angle to it, because that's what I really wanted to talk about. Because like I said, you've researched a lot into this stuff, and I feel like, the people that research and really get to the knowledge, when they see this stuff, like not only in the media and in movies and symbolism and stuff like that, but when you're hearing about the crimes and, some of the ritual sex abuse and stuff like that, you can kind of connect it to some of the things that, like, whatever dark magic is or whatever about that. And you mentioned Sabbatean Frankism. And I also wanted to ask you this, because you said that it's kind of a sect of atheism. But when you think of, your natural atheist or atheist, you kind of think of somebody who doesn't believe in God. But the way you describe Sabbatean Frankism is kind of someone that more believes into the system, but kind of rejects the moral values of it in order to gain influence in the physical realm. And am I getting that correct? Can you kind of expand on that?
Yeah, I'd say that you're right on par. So to start out from my beginning about learning this stuff is a little bit of background. And again, just fair warning to the audience, do not go into Qliphotic research. If you do decide, like, just do it at your own will and very cautiously, because it's psychologically dangerous. Like, there's no and ifs or buts. It's extremely psychologically dangerous. And it's just not a good thing to do, especially if you have a family. With my background in it, I was a Freemason at the time and very interested in Kabbalah through my Masonic studies. Kabbalah, regardless of what any modern Mason tries to say, it's deeply rooted in Protestant-inspired Kabbalah. And what is Kabbalah? It's Jewish mysticism. So during the Protestant Reformation, you just had a bunch of Freemasons that were very intrigued. They were so anti-Pope, protesting the Catholic Church, that they started to lean on things like, oh, well, if Jesus was Jewish, then we should probably look into their text and their writings and their mysticism to get a new perspective on the Old Testament. They, saw this as like logical. And I'm not saying that it's not, but at the same time, all of that's kind of where I was at the time that someone approached me. And, since I'm on your platform, I won't name drop who it is. But if you want to find out who it is, you can go to my page and find the videos where I do mention exactly who it is. However, this person approached me, was a fellow Freemason. And basically it started off as just a friendly invite to, like, study Kabbalah. Like, this guy, his whole page was all about Kabbalah. He was very talented, very educated when it came to Kabbalah and other subjects as well. But what we related on was that trust level of Freemasonry. Like, it wasn't just some random guy to me at that point, because when I was very proud to be a Freemason, I took that obligation serious. And when you meet another Freemason on the internet or out in public, you have a certain level of trust with them, right? Like, that's kind of what it's all about. However, things started to kind of take like a weird turn, because we got a little too close, a little too fast, and there was a few red flags here and there. But he started to kind of introduce me to that dark side of Kabbalah, which is the Qliphoth. And me just being curious by nature, and I convinced myself that I was, like, psychologically, spiritually, and even physically strong enough to handle this, like, initiatic experience, right? So, like, he developed what's called, like, a key. Basically, in simple terms, it's like a series of Hebrew letters, and they're put in a specific formation, and then just, like, gazing at them and, like, whatever, it kind of initiates you into this, like, concept of the Qliphoth. What does Qliphoth mean? It's a Hebrew word that essentially means husk or shell. And it's expanded upon. The concept of it does come from the Zohar. But the Zohar, to clarify, doesn't initiate people into the Qliphoth. It's an esoteric initiation and to do all that, but the Zohar actually warns against it. Like it kind of flat out says, like, don't mess with this stuff. This is related to the Sitra Achra, which Sitra Achra essentially means the other side, which is the dark side, basically. In very simple terms.
I'm fucking intrigued right now.
Yeah, it's so where does this whole concept come from? Like, as far as like initiating someone into the Qliphoth or whatever. Well, this goes back to Sabbatean Frankism. And before I get into it, give a quick shout out to which you guys did an episode with them.
Psychosmos.
Matt from Psychosmos. This is his book. He gifted this to me. So, long story short, through this mutual friend that we had, he introduced me to Matt. I found out Matt lived really close to me. We became friends and we started hanging out in person. This guy also, because Matt went and flew out to his house and had not a great experience, and however, remained somewhat friends with him. And then same thing, he at one point flew out here and I went and hung out with him, met him in person as well. And nothing out of the ordinary or whatever. He's just kind of an odd person in general. But Matt's book, Psychosmos, has a chapter in there about Sabbatean Frankism. So it gets into Shabtai Zvi, which is where it all starts, around 1666. Was the peak of his messianic journey. This guy claimed to be the Jewish Messiah, and for whatever reason, no one talks about this guy. And it's very significant when it comes to history. So you have this like modern conservative wave of just like blaming everything on the Jews, right? Like that's, it's kind of dangerous, right? It leads into dangerous rhetoric and things of that nature. But Shabtai Zvi, it's one thing that he claimed to be the Jewish Messiah. It's another thing that he, kind of like lost everything when he converted to Islam. But the major key factor here is that he convinced 2/3 of the population, of the Jewish population, mostly European Jews at the time in the 17th century, that he was the Jewish Messiah. A lot of people followed him. So he was heavily influential on 17th century Judaism. Secular Judaism, Orthodox Judaism, you name it. There was a lot of people that put their trust and faith in this guy. So he's a very significant character throughout Jewish history, yet they don't want to talk about him. He's like Voldemort.
Oh shit!
Like straight up, it's like the name you don't mention because he's a huge stain on it. But what stems from him and his teachings, which was the law of inversion, it was like basically sin, like justifying sin in order to achieve true salvation. Wow. So in order to obtain salvation, you have to go into the depths of the Qliphoth and be willing to do horrible things. But where does this stem from? Where does this idea stem from? Because the Jewish community, even on a global standard, was still living in like separated Jewish ghettos and like things of this nature. They weren't like prominent figures, wealthy, noble families, anything like that at this time. So he was teaching the Jewish communities that in order to do it, you have to infiltrate. So you have to infiltrate and be willing to do the things that's already happening inside of these inner circles or whatever, and fall into the depths of the Qliphoth, which is basically further and separate your sense of morality because these noble families are doing weird things, right? So he was teaching them to get out of their state of poverty and things of that nature. They have to get educated. They have to blend in, and they have to pretend to be Jewish. They have to pretend to be like some European noble family person, whatever, and then get into positions of power, such as government positions and things of this nature. So then he ends up passing away. But before he passed away, he essentially, converted over to Islam, right? And this, deterred a lot of his followers away.
Right.
But his devout followers, his inner circle, kind of like followed him into this because his concept was like, it's part of the Messiah's duty to do this. Like they came up with some like damage control,
like they're
rhetoric or whatever.
it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like saying that they were going to infiltrate Islam and like the Saudi families and things of that nature. So they created this thing called it's like Donme or Donma, Donme, but it's got like a special little hyphen over it. So I don't know how it's properly pronounced, but that continued into Saudi royalty. Right. But then this all like other followers ends up trickling throughout Western Europe to where after he passes away, fast forward to about 1750s, 1760s, a man named Jacob Frank adopts these teachings, claims to be the reincarnation of him. And Jacob Frank takes what he taught and then amplifies it up even more. He's just like, no, you have to completely blaspheme everything. Like do whatever the good things that the Torah says, do the opposite. That's what this guy was teaching. So this included like incest. This included like he was harming children, you name it. So Jacob Frank took something that was already like corrupted, made it more corrupted, and then had a huge following. He took his following and mass converted into once the Orthodox Jewish community exiled him and his followers, he goes straight to Russia and gets his followers to mass convert. I think it was either 300 or 500 people that mass converted into Roman Catholicism in Russia. So with that being said, the whole concept of climbing up the social ladder to get into a more prestigious ranking, pretend to be Catholic, even though you're a Frankist, he taught them, I'm actually the Messiah. I'm actually above God and above Jesus and all of that. So you think in your mind, don't tell anyone what we're talking about, but use it to climb the social ladder to get yourself in a better, more. However, the Roman Catholic Church caught on to it. Thank God, because he was in prison for heresy. They found out he was, him and his followers were teaching that. So he was put in prison, and he had people traveling to see him though, because he still had people that thought that he was an influential figure. He's the Messiah, blah, blah, blah. So people were visiting him while he was in prison. He made friends with Adam Weishaupt, the guy that
the founder of
started the Illuminati.
Yeah.
Damn.
If I'm not, I could be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure where he was in prison was Frankfurt, Germany.
Oh, shit.
So you had these followers of Jacob Frank, contemporary, like in his, basically going and seeing him and then going off into, back to Germany and Austria. And they were petitioning heavily because, again, to climb social ladders and to bump elbows with powerful, influential people, whether they be noble families, whether they be merchants, whatever the case may be. They started petitioning Grand Lodges for Freemasonry. Jews weren't allowed to be Freemasons at this point in certain areas of the world. And so they eventually create this thing called the Asiatic Brethren, which was around the same time that Jews conveniently were allowed to be Freemasons in these regions. So they create a fringe Masonic order adjacent to Freemasonry, where they met in secret called the Asiatic Brethren, and they took the teachings of Jacob Frank and started bringing those ideas into Freemasonry, into that network and things of that nature. And there's literature all about this. A lot of Masonic historians have written about this. And I just go ahead.
He kind of, I'm not even sure to say design, but it sounds like he kind of designed the system where he kind of infiltrates systems in order to gain influence in order to do the things that he wants to do, which we're going to talk about that later, because you made a funny video about starting a Christian compound and community, and by the end of the video you realize you're kind of talking about something else, but we're going to talk about that. But I do want to rewind and talk about a little bit about the dark stuff in the that you're talking about, like the Qliphotic Initiation and stuff like that, because it seems pretty parallel to what Aleister Crowley was doing as far as like his black magic, do it thou wilt, the Lima. And I do notice there are some like kind of parallels to like sometimes Jewish mysticism and kind of like Gnostic mysticism with like the Enochian keys and stuff like that. So I kind of wanted to get your opinion on that and see if you see any parallels there, and see if it's kind of like the same kind of thing but through like a Judaic lens or like a Kabbalic lens or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Aleister Crowley was 1000% heavily inspired and infatuated by Sabbatean Frankists. He knew about it. He was initiated into the Qliphoth by Sabbatean Frankists. So this is like, that Jacob Frank was like 18th century. Shabtai Zvi is 17th century. Jacob Frank is essentially the 18th century. Then you've got the 19th century, which is Aleister Crowley's like kind of bridging from the 19th into the 20th century. Alongside of that, adjacent to that, is whatchamacallit, Zionist movement, all of that. There's two streams that comes out from Jacob Frank, right? One that goes into these fringe Masonic orders, which is this time period in the Masonic timeline. You start to get a lot of these fringe Masonic orders that starts to get more into metaphysical things, like that gets where you get like Crowley's type of like
Dark
concept. So
like
Crowley, at the time, the Grand Lodge of France was not recognized by the Grand Lodge of or United Grand Lodge of England. So there was a lot of like back and forth. France was trying to be more liberal and things of this nature because of the influence of the Frankists that came in. That was like their whole concept. So like hyper liberalism, hyper secularism. One of the issues with France was they started to allow atheists, which was unheard of. They started to allow women, which was also unheard of in that time period. So that's kind of where things lead into Aleister Crowley. He was technically a Freemason. He was not recognized by the Grand Lodge of England. He, in fact, wrote a letter seeking them to recognize him because that's where he came from. But either way, France was still practicing the same degrees, rituals that they were when they were recognized by the United Grand Lodge of England. The only reason that they severed ties was because they kind of broke tradition of allowing women and atheists to join. But that's where Crowley became a Mason, was in France. The first thing that he experienced was like a fringe 33rd degree in Mexico. And then he came to France and went through the first and second and third degree in like a regular lodge, but it was considered irregular at the time. So you'll hear Freemasons say, no, he was a fake Freemason. Not necessarily. Like he wasn't recognized at the time, but he still went through the same degrees, rituals, and everything else. And then he also, through France, started to climb up the social ladder through these fringe Masonic orders as well, such as becoming familiar with the Asiatic Brethren or the remnants of it, or the other rites and rituals, the rites of Memphis and Mizraim, things of that nature. He started getting introduced to it through his Masonic ties there. That's where he stumbles across Sabbatean Frankism, and after he goes through all of that is when he starts getting real heavy into the mysticism and starts getting real heavy, or the Jewish mysticism. Okay. And he like thinks that it's like the highest level of enlightenment is to basically get turned out by these like like, and I'm being completely serious, like letting them treat him however they decided. I probably can't even mention
just
the things that they did to him.
Crazy.
So now that we have that established as a basis, we kind of got through the history of it. We know Crowley's influence through like music and media. You know, he's on album covers with the Beatles and stuff like that. Jay-Z has a "Do Without Wilt" shirt. You know, we know how his philosophy is ingrained into the music industry and even the media and stuff like that. We see symbolism and stuff like that. So I wanted to talk to you about the connections you've seen within the Epstein files and kind of the more dark stuff. Did you say that you believe that, you know, there is some Sabbatean Frankism there where they're using the angle to do these unholy acts to gain influence and gain more power? Do you see evidence of that?
Absolutely. And okay, so Matt has the chapter in Psychosmos that introduced me to this, and then he personally gifted me this book right here. Let me see. I don't know. It's a little blurry. Okay, it's a little blurry. It's called Saturn's Jews on the Witches, Shabbat and Sabbatianism by Moshe Edel. This goes more in depth about Shabtai V, but it puts things into perspective. And then after reading his chapter, this book, and then doing my own independent research, I can confidently say that I do consider myself an expert on this extremely niche subject. Again, nobody talks about it and nobody wants to talk about it for some reason.
Yeah.
So is there parallels? Yes, absolutely. Because the Sabbatean Frankist movement eventually is what, again, when Shabtai V convinces 2/3 of the Jewish population that he's the Jewish Messiah, and then the things that he's teaching, some of those things stick. So he ends up creating what snowballs into what we now know today as either secular Judaism, atheistic Judaism, non-religious Judaism, where it's basically they still consider themselves Jewish, but they're not religious, right? Like they don't believe in God, they don't care for religious tradition, but they do care about their culture and their identity, right? Yeah. So they hold on to that. So secular Judaism and then Sabbatean Frankism, there's a direct line that leads straight to what's called Reform Judaism, which is more liberal Judaism. And again, all of this stems from the Jewish people that were maneuvering through Western Europe, including those fringe Masonic orders, including other social circles, whatever the case may be. Eventually, it even leads into World War II, and that's the documents that old Mustache Man was finding out about. But we don't have to get into that right now.
Episode 3.
How does it how does it get to Epstein? Well, it's not that Epstein is directly saying, yeah, I'm a Sabbatean Frankist. It's so, again, this name is like Voldemort. So especially to someone like Epstein who has zero sense of morality or anything like that, what he has done when you study the teachings of Jacob Frank and Shabtai Zvi, but more especially Jacob Frank, all of which is inversion of this guy, Rabbi Isaac Lariah. It's called Lorianic Kabbalah. That's what really kind of opened up the door to the Qliphoth. So it takes a lot of understanding the Qliphoth. Once you understand the Qliphoth, you understand every corrupt system because it's made in its image.
Yeah.
Like it's a continuation of this, but it just gets rebranded and called different things. But what you're seeing when you study the Epstein files is him reaching out to aspiring DJs, right? Like super low level socialites that are like, you know, like some young girl or young person that's on social media clearly has dreams. And then he's like, hey, I'm the guy that can make your dreams come true. But this Qliphotic system, whether he calls it that or not, it's the same thing, because what the Qliphoth is like, it starts out, some people say it's the root of the tree. It's not that. It's more of the fallen fruit of the tree, if we're going to use it as a metaphor. It's detached itself from the tree of God, or the tree of life, to be more consistent with Kabbalah. And it on the outside, it's literally the fruit that Adam and Eve ate, right? Yeah. That's the whole concept. And then they ate into it. It looks appealing from the husk or the shell, which is the Qliphoth, the shell of the fruit, but then on the inside is nothing but death and decay. The Bible even talks about this in Proverbs. There's wisdom who's personified as this like beautiful essence of like almost like it's literally like personified as a female in the Bible, but there's also the spirit of temptation, right?
Okay.
Which is depicted as like this harlot woman that stands outside of a brothel basically and intrigues men to come inside and like, you know, whatever. And then it seems appealing until you bite into it and realize that it's just filled with death, decay, and worm, whatever. So that's kind of how it operates. Less symbolic, let's get into practical. Epstein approaches a young person. That's the temptation. And then they take a bite. The temptation is also called in the Zohar, the mother of all demons is known as Naama, right? So Naama is very phonetically close. I'm not saying that this is the case. It's just a weird coincidence. Naama is like name. So when you look at the way that name is spelled, Name, if you were to say Naama, it's like very close, right? So the initiatic experience is like, okay, Epstein's going to approach someone that is a potential person that he could initiate into his inner circle, his network, or not his inner circle, his network, right? Like at a very base level, and say, okay, I can make your dreams come true, but like, are you willing to say, if anyone speaks out against our network, our team, or whatever, are you willing to slander them and ruin their name? Are you willing to do this level of corruption? Right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the way that the approach would work, is if they were willing to slander someone's name. We're seeing this happen with Candace Owens right now. We're seeing it happen with anyone that speaks out against Israel. The network, the system that they have is a strategic system of slander and just like completely lying and doing whatever they can to smear the image of the person that just happens to be noticing and asking questions, right? So that's like stage one. Are you willing to be on our team of corruption? And then they say, yeah, sure. Like, and then that's okay. I'll fund your dreams. And next thing you know, this small town DJ becomes like a hit at a music festival on like a Burning Man or something like that. And then their career explodes. So in their mind, they're like, wow, like, this Epstein made my career. So to them, he's just this great person, but they haven't reached that level yet of his inner circle that knows the debaucherous things that he's doing. Right. So again, it's not that like he's sitting here saying that like, oh, like I learned this in the Zohar and this is like a Naama initiation where we're going to turn this person into a demon and blah, blah, blah. Perfect example, by the way. This goes back to the guy that initiated me. He showed me this whenever I was being like, he was like, this is how prominent it is inside of the music industry. And we know that.
Well, I was going to say it's a direct parallel to Diddy. He does the same exact thing.
Exactly. But you know, the song EXO Tour Life.
Yeah.
By Lil Uzi Vert. Everyone picked up on, but like when you go and watch the music video, he's literally doing a satanic ritual that is invoking Lilith, the girl that looks like she's not alive in the bathtub and all that stuff, is literally a like Qliphotic ritual of invoking the spirit of Lilith. And that's what the whole imagery of the music video is about, which Lilith is a part of this Qliphotic system in Western esoteric traditions. So basically, Epstein is the Moloch of this situation. Everyone thinks that Moloch just means this like separate video game style demon, right? Yeah. Moloch is symbolic. The word itself means king, right? Kind of funny when you transliterate the word Moloch in Hebrew over to English, it's MLK. Ironically, we have MLK Jr., who was clearly doing some Epstein type shit back in the day. Yeah. And I'm just saying, like, it's either these things are all coincidences or it's all connected.
Yeah.
So again, when you start to understand, the only reason that I was curious and dove into this stuff was because I wanted to study the enemy. I wanted to know how it operated. Like, it's like spiritual CIA type shit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to know the system, and I was willing to like go through it myself to firsthand experience it. And again, but like halfway through, I found out that the guy that, I was talking about, that initiated me into this, he was a fellow Freemason. He initiated me into this. Halfway through it, I realized that he was corrupted himself. I found out he was a Sabbatean Frankist, and he was trying to rope me into his Sabbatean Frankist cult.
Oh shit.
But that's when me and Matt cut him off, and it was a whole other thing. But anyways, it's very embedded in, and through the Crowley influence, influencing the entertainment industry, the music industry, the fashion industry, you name it.
Right.
He literally touched base in everything.
Wow.
Everything. What's his name? Jack Parsons. I mean, we can't even have rockets anymore without without Crowley touching it. So, like, again, Martin Luther King, Moloch, this whole thing, right? He was doing things that was very debaucherous, separated from God, very much like Epstein. And that pops up in these files that, not Epstein files, I think they're separate files. But either way, where Epstein becomes like this living Moloch is that he is essentially the godless king, the lawless one. In his mind, he's the king over all of these people that are participating in the Baal system.
Oh, so he's kind of in control of the system.
Right. Okay. So Baal means Lord, but it's a person that, so the further, the deeper you go into the Qliphoth, it's like a slingshot. However far back and deep you're willing to go, the Qliphoth is going to spit like in your mind and in secret. The Hebrew word is called sod. The Qliphoth puts you into a deep slingshot, and how deep you're willing to go, it's like, whether it be your psyche or behind closed doors like Epstein was doing, it's going to parachute you and sling you in the world's perspective in a good manner.
Okay.
This is the whole concept of Jacob Frank, was that how much debauchery you're willing to do is how much the evil system is going to reward you in exchange. So Epstein was running his network in a very similar fashion, according to the Epstein files. So some people just wanted to be musicians. Okay, we'll drag you here. Are you willing to slander some people if we need you to? Whatever, because we have you on payroll. But in return, we'll make the public view of you look like a just celebrity or whatever.
So that's when you get like ritual sex abuse, like with celebrities and stuff like that, and like powerful people that you figure out are doing like like very, very dark things, and like humiliation rituals and things of that nature.
So not right up riff with the with like the satanic sex abuse, like not right off rip, because you can't just like the steps of initiation are essentially like taking baby steps too. You can't just like, Epstein's not going to bring someone into his inner circle of debauchery. It starts off with, are you willing to slander? Okay, sure. Are you willing to, what was the second thing you said?
Defend
like not
us.
the humiliation.
Yeah.
So are you willing to humiliate yourself?
Oh, shit.
So that way we have a public humiliation of you, but then we have the blackmail version of you behind closed doors too. And the more you're willing to go is how you're willing to climb up the social ladder. That's how his entire system operated, to where eventually you get to the point where, say, like Lawrence Krauss, who's a full-blown atheist. And this is where it gets atheistic, by the way. Let me touch base on that real quick too. Epstein was an atheist. He was funding the science, and this was all around like 2011, 2012 era. This is when I was an atheist. So I was watching all the atheist YouTubers and like all of that stuff, right? This is how much of an influence he had on every culture within our lifetime. He was funding the science research labs to create atheistic talking points that he would then give to the public speakers that were all the famous, like including Lawrence Krauss and his network of atheistic influencers at the time. So in the early 2010s, Epstein was controlling the narrative of atheism. Every talking point that you've heard from atheists literally comes from the ideas of Epstein's mind being funded by atheistic scientific research.
Oh, shit.
Whatever. So that's how he's an atheist. He was not only influencing the entire atheist movement, but what he was also doing is making it where, so in an atheistic mind, they believe in science, right? But all of this, even occult science and just basic science, all stems from Christianity. Most people don't know that. And this new science, new atheism movement that was heavily like adopted and pushed into mainstream by Epstein himself, because they wanted a secular atheistic world that was like further and further away from morality, because that's the Moloch job. Yeah. Moloch is the king that has fully separated himself from God and every sense of morality. Wow. That's what atheism used to mean, was an irreligious libertine that had zero morals and would wipe out an entire country just to get some, precious metals or minerals or whatever. So that's what Moloch represents archetypically. But the spirit of Moloch, this concept of like a prideful king, is also found all throughout the Bible. But again, like Herod the Great is very consistent with how Epstein was, if that makes sense. Okay. So it's, even though Epstein didn't believe in spirits, he didn't believe in God, he didn't believe in any of these things, he did believe in energy and manipulation. Yes. Yeah. When you combine those two things, you get occultism in a atheistic fashion. Yeah. There's content creators on TikTok right now that call themselves atheists, but yet they practice Solomonic magic because they believe in the manipulation of energy, bending to their will. Yes. Now, imagine you had all the money in the world, all the access to all the money in the world. You had access to Saudi princes, which, by the way, that's kind of funny how the first Sabbatean Frankist or Shabtai V goes straight into
Islam.
Goes into Saudi royalty or whatever, and then next thing you know, Epstein's hanging out with Saudi royalty. Just saying, even though he was an atheist, he still believed what the ancients called energy or called spirits and demons is what science today calls energy and whatever. But it's this energetic source of something that science doesn't quite fully have a grasp on because they reject God, and they have no real explanation for it. However, the church does. So he's teaching an atheism of just like all that shit's dumb, religion's dumb, whatever, because the whole thing's about attacking religion in the first place.
Yes.
So you have a lot of secular Jewish people that think just like this, whether it's directly connected to Epstein or not. Yeah. You have a current leader who does questionable things, ungodly things, lawless things, does whatever he wants. You have Epstein, on the other hand. Again, you give him, you give an atheist all the freedom, all the money, and all the power in the world, when Epstein is single-handedly making connections with every source of media, every source of subculture media like 4chan, every source of entertainment industry, every source of the music industry. When he's controlling and manipulating all of these things, all he sees it is science and psychology manipulating people, which is manipulating energy, because he doesn't believe in God. He's completely detached himself from that concept. So he's fully separated himself from any sense of morality. That's what Moloch represents. It's like Moloch in the flesh is him. Then you have the people that work in this system, this beast system that is in the cult of Baal. They are the lords of the situation, so they consider themselves to be lords, but the lords serve the king, which is Moloch, which is Epstein.
Okay.
So Epstein would be like Moloch, and then all the executives and CEOs and stuff like that, and that are recruiting and like getting up the upper echelon of the system they created. They are the Baal worshipers, because they can like they're like, I answer to Epstein technically because he funded me, gave me my career. I was able to start my record label, but now I own this record label and I have 20 artists on my record label. I'm the lord over them. They like it goes down the chain of command in that manner. So that's the gist of the we skipped a few steps of the Qliphotic Initiation or whatever. But
no,
again,
it's very, you see the parallels, you see the dead parallels. That's why I wanted to get your opinion on it, because like I said, you definitely, like when you dive into something, you dive into it and you got a lot of knowledge on it and stuff. But before we sign out, I wanted to ask you real quick, we got to talk about it. What is your opinion on the war in Iran now, since
Okay, so I'm pretty neutral on it because like a lot of people already knew that he was going for this. Charlie Kirk was against it. Candace is now revealing how much he was against it and insisting that this is possibly why they allegedly took his life, whoever they is. So it gets interesting because like I trust Charlie Kirk. I trusted him a lot when he was alive, and if I don't know, maybe he might still be in witness protection somewhere. I don't know. I'm not making any claims, but either way, we'll go with the narrative. He has passed away. He wasn't for it. I trusted that.
He's like the Republicans' Tupac right now.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
Right, but I'm not. I voted for Trump. I'm not happy with a lot of the things that he's doing, but I am happy with some of the things that he's doing. One of the things that I like, the inner conspiracy voice of me is wanting me to hold on to a piece of hope that says that, like, okay, he was put in a rock in a hard place. Every president has to make some very harsh decisions
Can't make
sometimes.
everybody happy.
I think that Israel gave him an ultimatum, like, okay, either you do this for us, and that's what's pissed off a lot of this like newer conservative movement on the right, is that he's basically like Israel's bitch or whatever. But then there's this other, it's like when you're given that level of ultimatum, it's like none of us have ever been in that position, so we don't know what we would actually do. What I've heard is that maybe he is very aware of what's going on, and he's trying to do the most righteous decision making, that if he didn't take matters into his own hands and at least assert his power in return to say, you know what, like, we're going to do this, but not because you told me. I could see him just being like, not because you told me to, but we're going to do it because if we don't do it, what they were essentially threatening, allegedly, is that if you don't do it, we will handle it exactly how we want to, which is using nuclear force. Which would have led us into World War III. So I think Trump had good intention on trying to find a more quick, effective way of taking out the leadership. But again, it brings up this whole thing with like very symbolic thing that happened just a few weeks ago. We all saw the ball statue getting burned in Iran.
Yeah.
We're seeing the footage of how these people feel about the American leaders and the Israeli leaders. And they burned the ball statue in protest to the relations of American government and the Israeli government and the tensions that were rising. It was a symbolic act of saying that you're a bunch of Western European Satanists, basically.
Yeah.
And we won't stand for this.
Okay.
So those were people that supported the supreme leader of Iran. And we all saw that footage. But then now we see the media showing us this other group of Iranians that are cheering that, their supreme leader has been taken out. And like this whole situation's happening. So it's like, I just don't know what to fully believe in this situation, because when they are clearly protesting and saying like, you're a bunch of Satanists that worships Baal, but you can pretend to worship God all you want, but you don't. You're a bunch of satanic weirdos or whatever. Like that was the Iranians directly tied to the Epstein files too.
Yeah. Oh,
so that was the whole reason why they did it, was because like they were calling out the hypocrisy of them. Like, you want to take out our leader. So that group of Iran supports their leader, while the ones that the news is showing us today after Trump made the decision is showing a bunch of people celebrating and things of that nature. So it's like, I stand kind of where Charlie Kirk stood, is that I understand why Trump made his decision. He didn't have much of a choice to begin with. But at the same time, as an American, I just think that it's not our fucking business. Like, why are we involving ourselves?
Well,
like,
I got one more question before we sign out, and I think it's directly connected to this up front, literally and symbolically too. I kind of see this dialogue and this narrative getting passed around that Christian nationalists and they're supportive of Israel because there's something about the that happens in Revelation in the New Testament, as well as whatever is supposed to happen in the Judaic perspective, as well as what's supposed to happen in the Muslims perspective. All these events are supposed to be centered around some holy war that happens in the area of the Middle East. And I think the narrative is that Christian nationalists support Israel because there's supposed to be a war, but all the outcomes are different from all the perspectives. Like everyone else is supposed to get taken to hell or condemned or something like that. So everyone's kind of cheering for this end holy war, but in the end, they're all supporting each other, even though they're kind of like enemies religiously. Can you expand on that if that's the case at all?
Yeah, and
Do you know
full
about that?
disclosure, yes, yeah. So this is my opinion, doesn't reflect Outside Minds podcast at all. This may get you in trouble, but for me personally, if anyone considers themselves a Christian nationalist and supports Israel, they're neither a Christian nor a nationalist. They don't understand the meaning of those words separately or put together. I do consider myself to be a Christian nationalist. I don't support Israel in any way, shape, or form at this point.
Okay.
This concept of them hyper fixated on supporting Israel is very strange because it doesn't reflect anything that is taught by Christ himself. None of the Orthodox or Catholic or any apostolic versions of the earliest forms of Christianity supports it. They don't support Christian Zionism. They've openly condemned it. And for the first time in a very long time, nearly 1,000 years, we're seeing the churches unify, setting their differences aside to stand up against Christian Zionism or this like fake Christian nationalist movement that's supporting Israel. The Catholic Church does not support it. Eastern Orthodoxy, which is what, I'm becoming, I support. That's one of the main reasons that helped me with my decision making on going this path.
Nice.
Evangelicals are supporting the Antichrist. Like this whole movement of supporting them, that like if we are in like the end times of like their perspective or whatever, they're funding it. They're hoping for it, but they are part of the system that Jesus gave explicit warnings to avoid.
Oh, shit.
And they don't realize that. They think that they're cheerleading for Jesus. The only thing that I see, evangelicals doing in non-denominations that are in hyper support of Israel, they are not Christians. They're diet Jews. Basically, that's the only way that I see it. Their diet, it's diet Judaism, supporting a tyrannical system that is everything that Jesus warned about, taught to avoid, and also said the destruction of. Okay, so the destruction of the Second Temple. Jesus came and specifically said this system of the Second Temple is corrupt. Because of your corruption, the same thing that happened to the first temple is going to happen to this temple. And that actually happened in 70 AD. However, this group of people loses their entire identity in all of this. So they had to recreate themselves over the next span of the next 500 years. It's now rabbinical Judaism or whatever. But then you have remnants of the corruption of they were so idolatrous to this temple that all we're seeing today is the continuation of the Second Temple corruption on a global scale.
Oh,
and if God destroyed it the first time, and then Jesus's warnings came to pass and destroyed it the second time, the system that no longer has a physical temple in Jerusalem to have its corruption has spread all across the world through Epstein, basically. We'll use him as an example. God will destroy it because that's the consistent promise from God all throughout the Old and the New Testament. And they think that they can outsmart God. That's their thing, is they're like spoiled children that when they get punished, they act like it's the parents' fault. When in reality, they never reflect on their own transgressions that's written in the law itself, that's written in the book of the prophets, in the Torah, the Tanakh, and then ultimately the Holy Bible as well. They don't look at their own actions, their own transgressions, and everything else. So what happens in the Bible, when this isn't the first time this has happened, when this level of corruption was revealed, like you said, revelations, things being revealed, every time that happened, a prophet was there to say, look, this corruption's happening. Everyone's like, you're crazy. Shut up. We love what we're doing. We love our system. We like the golden calf scenario, right?
Yeah.
Like Moses and the golden calf. But then the masses of the people sees, oh, wait, that prophet was right. There is a lot of corruption. What do we do? Oh, no. Hey, God, what are you going to do about it? Sin, and people offer up their prayers. And then God is like, tried to tell you, boom, snaps his fingers overnight. Total destruction of corrupt systems. And then, but what comes with that destruction of that is rebuilding. That's the template of what most people miss inside of the Bible. We are seeing that now on a global scale. We're living in a time period that is cyclical. It matches the people that are into astrology and things of that nature. We're not meant to use it for divination purposes as Christians, but if you're not a Christian, feel free to use it all you want. I'm not that Christian that's going to tell you not to. But in astronomy, what is understood is that you can compare it to history, and when you see the consistent things that happen in the Bible that's happening now, that big moment parallel right before God's judgment comes in is when it gets to the level of your leaders are corrupt, they're harming children, they're harming women, and they're doing it on a grand scale. That is God showing us the truth. Every one of us, we've all now bear witness to the truth. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. This is what he does. He reveals it to everybody right before he's about to enforce judgment, and then the system gets destroyed. So one way, shape, or another within our lifetimes, because we're already witnessing the revelation of it.
Yes.
We're going to see the destruction of a corrupt system within our lifetime. So it's not a time to be sad, scared, or anything like that, especially as us little people. The leaders are the ones that are afraid because they realize that it's happening again because they fucked up.
Yeah.
We should be rejoicing because we, especially if you feel like you have nothing, if you feel like you don't have God right now, or God's not listening to you, or whatever you may be feeling, anxiety, fear, whatever, get rid of it. Because right now, everything that we're seeing is disturbing. But how blessed are we to be witnessing God's judgment in action?
Yes,
because
sir.
Again,
yes, sir.
Everything that's happening now is
be
consistent.
alive.
Amen.
Oh yeah. Tyler, thank you so much again for coming on the show. You took us deep down the rabbit hole. Go ahead and let the people know any quick message you want to let them know, and then go ahead and let them know where they can find you, and just go ahead and promote whatever social links you want to promote right now.
Final thoughts. Thank you for having me again. You guys are absolutely awesome.
Thank you.
We're probably going to ruffle some more feathers whenever the clips come out, but hey, again, just proving us right.
Yeah.
But stay away from the clip off, stay away from the Zohar, stay away from dark mysticism. It's not worth it at all. The best thing that you can do right now, if we're going to get a little Kabbalistic, by the way, one more thing I want to throw in there too. This is the year of the Lord. It's year in Jewish, like, again, I'm going Orthodox, so this is a little unorthodox for a moment. Jewish year is, I think, 5786. Yeah, 5,786. When you add those numbers up, 26. Same numerical value as Yod He Vav He, which is the name of the Lord, the divine name, the Tetragrammaton. So this is quite literally the year of the Lord, ironically, in 2026. So it's like a double layer thing of like, this is the year of the Lord. So it's no coincidence that the Lord is showing this grand revealing of these super corrupt things. Now is the time to just forget the dark stuff. Don't mess with it. Get close to God. Like, I'm not preaching, go to church, whatever. Like, you don't just find Jesus Christ.
Yes, sir.
And I promise you that the benefits will be far greater than anything you could imagine, mentally, spiritually, physically, you name it. Just yeah. It's the year to rejoice and just sit back and enjoy God's judgment.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Where can they find you on TikTok, bro?
Now it's Rebel Orthodox, and that's across all platforms.
Nice.
Except for Instagram. Don't have an Instagram, but maybe in the future, if it spreads out further, whatever.
Yes, sir. Cool.
Rebel Orthodox on everything. For tattooing, it's Torch Face Tattooer on TikTok and Instagram.
Cool. Send me all the links. We're going to have all the links in the bio or in the description right here. And thank you once again, Outsider, for joining us. This has been another episode of the Outside Minds podcast. I am your host and creator, Stilo Free. This is the other host and creator,
Down for 20.
and we out.
Peace.